Hello, and welcome to NSG News. This is the hot seat. And as some of you will know, in the interest of Ghana must work, Ghana can work. We want Ghana to work. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, forward it to other Ghana loving Ghanaians, and collectively, together, we hopefully make a difference and bring Ghana to the Ghana Kwame Nkrumah saw. Today, I have, as you can see on screen, I have a wonderful lady here who is a Ghanaian, and there's a reason she's here. So without much ado, I introduce Dr. Mrs. Manyo, who is a PhD holder in, let me be sure so that I don't have to mix things up. So it's a PhD in political marketing, and she has specialized in her research in designing and delivering the political brand promise in developing democracies. And guess what? Our own beautiful Ghana is the case study of Ghana. Welcome to the hot seat. As some of you will know, it gets hot on this seat, but for the benefit of inspiration, with the hope that others will learn from how far she has come to this point, I hope not to make it too hot. Welcome, Dr. Manyo.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, yes, it's the hot seat, but I will try as much as possible not to make it hot because I love Ghana. I'm so passionate about Ghana, and therefore I tend to take critical disposition on things that don't go in the favor of Ghana. And the only interest we have decided to ask your indulgence in this interview is your study and your project work. It resonates so much with us, and it seems I've taken the privilege to have a look at your thesis, which is available on the internet. You can read it, 336 pages. Yes, I got that one. But anyway, welcome. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff. So tell us your journey to PhD.
Okay, so thank you for that. My PhD journey has not been an easy one. It's been quite challenging because, for example, I didn't get scholarship, and though I had funding from the department, it was not a fully funded scholarship, and so I had to work to support myself. But even before I started a PhD, I am not one of those people that were fortunate enough to have gotten all their senior secondary school certificate examination. I mean, passed all. I failed quite a number of the papers. And at that point, it looked like I better put education to an end and think of doing something else. But I never gave up. And I was fortunate enough to get somebody who said that I'm going to teach you at home for you to rewrite, and hopefully you get better grade for you to further your education. And that happened. So I got one man from our church that helped me. So he taught me physics, chemistry, and maths because those were the papers that I failed. And after that, I was attending remedial classes alongside what he was teaching me at home. And when I wrote, the grades were better. But I would want to say that I am an arts person, but the secondary school that I went to, for some reason, because my BEC results were good, gave me agric science. So from the word go, I struggled. And I had always gone to our assistant headmistress to change because I wanted to read general arts. And he was like, go and come, go and come. And by the time I realized, first year was gone. So he said, if you want to do art, it means you have to repeat 1 year. And I didn't want to do that. So I struggled with the agric science. And obviously, my results showed that I really struggled. So when I did the remedials and with the man teaching me at home, the results were better and university admissions were closed. I've already been in the house for about 2 years. So I bought a polytechnic form and I went to Cape Coast Polytechnic where I read marketing that falls within the arts. So it was my comfort zone. And I finished with a CGP of 3.82, which was good,
Alright,
second
that's
class
beautiful.
upper, yeah. And I did my national service. After the national service, I worked for 1 year and I saved towards
So
doing.
you are a country person.
Yes, I did my
Some
national
didn't do
service.
their national
I
service.
did it.
They just vanished.
I did it. So after my national service, I worked for 1 year and I saved towards doing a top-up program at GIMPA. So I saved to pay my own school fees. How much I saved paid the fees, and what was left was what I'll eat and what I will wear to attend lectures.
Mhm.
Fortunately, I had people from my church, my family members supporting me, as well as my dad. And so I went to GIMPA and I finished with first class in marketing as well.
Wow.
So after GIMPA, I had some job to do. And then I actually got a job with Vodafone. I worked, and unfortunately, after a year, we were laid off.
Mm.
Not because I did something, but Vodafone had an issue, and then a number of us that were hired by Vodafone, we had to exit. So that is it.
Okay.
But at the time, I was like 6 weeks pregnant with my first child, so I couldn't take up a new job. I was at home. So whilst at home, I conceived the idea of, okay, let me then do my master's because I couldn't take up a new job. I was 6 weeks pregnant and all that. So yeah, I conceived that idea of doing my master's. When I had my first child, and I tried to get a job, I didn't get it. So I said, okay, then let me do my master's. So I went to Legon to do MPhil in marketing and entrepreneurship, University of Ghana Business School. And when I started the course, I recall, in July, and in September, I was pregnant again with my second child. So while doing the MPhil,
I don't want to make a comment at that point.
So while doing the MPhil, I got pregnant with my second child. And by grace, I finished successfully. Didn't get any referred papers. I finished my thesis on time and I graduated with MPhil. And then fortunately, I was taken as a teaching assistant. And at the time, Professor Kobe had now just come to University of Ghana Business School from University of Sheffield. And I worked with him as a teaching assistant. I had 6 weeks baby. So I went to him and I said, well, I've been assigned to you as a teaching assistant, but I have a baby and I don't know how I'll manage, so I don't want to take it. Then he told me, no, you have to take it because it will help you one day. So it's a matter of you telling me when and when you think you can come and all that. And I'm okay.
Oh.
And that was good. It really helped.
And that was helpful?
Yes, very helpful. Very understandable person. There were days that I needed to come. I couldn't come because maybe I had to send the baby for a review or something. So I survived that. And then eventually when I finished with a TA, my son was now 1. So he started schooling. And I had a contract with the business school as a research assistant. So I worked on Building Stronger University project that was funded by Danida for a year. And all this was helping me build my research skills. But I had not conceived the idea of doing a PhD until Professor Kobe again told me that, you know what, you've worked with me for 1 year, you've worked on this project, and I can tell that you do very well when you pursue a PhD.
And this Professor Kobe is University of Ghana?
Business School, yes.
Okay.
He's a political marketing as well. And he told me that you've done quite research for me, and I think that you will do well when you take on a PhD program, and you'll be a good academic. Because sometimes when he's late for class or he attends a program, I do hold the fort for him until he comes. So all those things he was saying really rang a bell and inspired me to pursue the PhD. And so I started searching, and fortunately, I got the global expert in political marketing to go do my PhD at the University of Auckland in New Zealand.
That's a very long way from Ghana.
Yes, very.
How was it for you? Just to stall you there a bit.
Obviously, New Zealand is far from Ghana, but the thing about PhD is that the one, your professor is very crucial, because if he or she is well known, she carries you along, and by the time you are done, you have good publication, or to some extent, you also be known and all that. So it was very crucial that I get the best in the field. And don't forget that political marketing, it's quite new, and I'll say in Ghana it's an emerging area. So I needed to be supervised by the best so that I come out as if not the best, one of the best. So that is how come I had to go to New Zealand. But when I had the admission, I didn't get funding. I wrote to get fund, they didn't respond. I wrote to many of the universities in Ghana that, look, I'm willing to come back and teach in your institution if only you pay for me. And all the university I wrote to, it was only one that responded that, well, we acknowledge your letter. Unfortunately, we are not in a position to sponsor. So I wrote back to my professor that, unfortunately, I'm not getting funding, and I don't have money to pay the New Zealand dollars to do this for. Yes. So she said, okay, wait a minute, I'll get back to you.
If I will stall you again there, what is the particular reason why they will not sponsor? Is it a choice of course, lack of money, or no interest in supporting individuals who want to study further?
Well, I can't tell, because none of them responded and gave me reasons. It was only Ashesi University that responded and said that, unfortunately, we do not have funding for anybody that wants to pursue their course.
So in effect, the rest of the university just ignored.
None of them responded to
so
the
in
letter.
effect, let's say they ignored you.
Yeah, including get fund.
Okay.
Yes. So eventually my professor got back to me, and I had some doctoral research funding from my department, but the point was that I had to go to New Zealand and work and support myself to do the PhD. I never gave up, because I weighed the options and I realized that if I'm able to do the PhD, my life might be better. I'll make significant contribution.
I will come to that.
In the
PhD field. And the hope that you have a better life, because I'm not critical of PhD, I'm not critical of masters, but I hope not to forget, as this conversation, I hope we don't take too long, but you see, having a journey from nursery, kindergarten, and then going to primary and back to when you failed, you see, it's a long journey. So we need to delve down to the specifics, because one of the reason NSG News, and to be precise, the Hot Seat has decided to bring you on this show, is that the Hot Seat started reading your research thesis. And what caught our attention is where you said you failed and have to be helped. And we thought, no, this will be a good advertisement to Ghanaians, young Ghanaians coming up, who may come to just a stall, I call it a stall, or just a little glitch in their journey. That's when most people give up. What will you have to say to them when you realize that you have not performed to the standard required to further your course, and you have to now get support or additional tutoring to pass it? What is your advice for them?
Honestly, the first thing I'll say, and this goes to parents, is that, see, do not tell your children what they should do. Every child have his or her own strength. Okay? And don't just wake up and say, I want my daughter or son to be a doctor or to be a scientist. In my case, I'm very sure that if I had read general arts, I would have done well in my SSE. Giving me that agric science really, really, really affected me. And I would say it's by grace that I'm here today. So parents should not be telling their children, I want you to be a doctor or this, when the child
because it's prestigious.
That my my strength is in art or in business. When you do that, you make them struggle, and that was my case. But I want to tell everybody watching or listening that, listen, failing is part of the process. Failing is part of the process.
Yeah.
I didn't pass all my SSE, and I'm sure at the time, or my mates will have a lot of them that did so well, maybe passed all, but might not have got into where I have got into. So failing is part of the process. I think what is crucial is that you find out what you can do given the circumstances, and then you make the best out of it. When my result came and I failed physics, chemistry, and maths, I knew obviously I couldn't buy any forms to progress. And what I needed to do was to resit. Okay? So failing is part of the process, and you don't need to give up because you wrote BC or SSC and you didn't do well, and so that is it. Ask yourself, what else can I do? And then take up the best opportunities and move on. I got better, and then I progress. So that is it. When you fail your exams, it doesn't mean that your world has come to an end. There is something you can do with that. And everybody should take note that failing is part of the process.
Yeah. Beautiful. So 2 things or 3 things I've picked from that is parents should get involved with their children to see their desire or interest actually that will bring out their skills and ability more than what you feel like. You think, oh, being a doctor is a prestigious profession, therefore I want a doctor in my family. That shouldn't be it.
Their interest, their abilities, and their capabilities.
Beautiful. And then failure is part of the process. If you tend to fail, you stand up and do it again.
Yeah, certainly
or
it's part of the process.
Identify what might be the reason why you failed and then fix it and try again.
Yeah.
Now, anyway, talking about education, the NSG News, we believe authoritatively we are the most patriotic channel as far as Ghana's matters is concerned. Not having any go at any news media in Ghana, but I don't like their reporting because they don't report in the interest of Ghana. Okay? So, as far as the hot seat is concerned, our education, we would name it this way, is in a shambles at the moment. The education you went through, that you had a challenge of have to fail because you were in an area that is not favorable to you, not because you couldn't. And then you have to now put things together, restructure your own trajectory to where you are now. Look at the education we have now. I'm blunt on that. The hot seat, what we have now is a shambles of education. If you want our politics, the reason we brought you here is that you wrote very vital, important things that could help us have a formidable democracy and for the betterment of Mother Ghana. But the education system doesn't seem to be factoring into the fact that we have a country to run. What do you have to say to that?
Well, I didn't study education, and so I cannot really sharply criticize our educational system. But what I can say is that when I look at our time, how you just do well in BC, you choose your school, and you go to the notice board, and your name is there because you met the the entry requirement is not so. I think the process now is quite challenging, and every now and then you see a lot of parents running around trying to get school for their children. Sometimes these are students that have done very well in their exams. I think that one, the government will have to take a look at it. Yeah, that is it. Like I said, I didn't do education, and so I didn't really want to go into our educational system. But if I compare my time and now, I think it's more challenging now getting into senior high school and all that. So they should try to fix it.
Okay, let me poke you there one more time. I accept your question, your answer, but the system in place is what I'm talking about. Children going to school, coming home and stay for 2-3 months, not knowing when they're going back to school again. We even went to school where we know we're going to school for 2.5 months and go home for 2 weeks and come back. Even that, it's not an easy task to comprehend the curriculum and produce in examinations. How do you think these children are being built? Because education is not only writing exams. As far as the hot seat is concerned, we have an education system which is only focused on exams. But this education system is meant to give this a broad view of life. When do these children are being taught to? We went in school, we went to excursions, we go to places, visit places to talk. In this sandwich, I don't know what it is called, is it a sandwich system or shift system? I don't know what it is called. You go to school for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you come home. God knows when you're going to go back to school. That's what I'm trying to criticize because it doesn't work. As far as the hot seat is concerned, nobody goes to school like that.
Well, that is fine, but I think these are things that you may probably have to talk to the Minister of Education, point out what the loopholes are or what the
And I'm telling them
challenges
now.
that you have found for them to fix it. But I am not an
This is a
educationalist,
common challenge everybody knows and
and so
sees.
I cannot confidently, discuss the issues of our educational system and all that. Honestly,
I'm not driving you into politics. I know your background is politics, but I want you to speak as a Ghanaian. This education system of 2 weeks or 1 month in school and come back home and not knowing when you're going back to school, I don't think we need to be educationists or having the expertise in education to see that this is a failure. It's a shamble. As far as the hot seat is concerned, it's a shamble. Ghana, look, on the hot seat, the easy way to break a country is to break the education system. If we continue on the way we are going, we don't have a future. That's what the hot seat thinks. You may think differently, you may have a different view to it, but we need a formidable education system that actually even inculcates into the children some level of patriotism. Any challenge we have now in politics, where are the people coming from? They're coming from our education system. It's not like the West trains them and send them to Ghana to come and do what they do. Every political leader is a Ghanaian. That's what the hot seat is saying, and I don't want you to give a comment, but if you want to give a comment, please feel free.
well, I think it's the reason why I said that in comparison to my time, that is, I went to secondary school in 1997 and I finished 1999. In comparison to my time, things are different now. But they may probably have a reason for which they are doing what they do. So if you think that, yeah, I think that the system now has a bit of challenge or there are challenges, but they probably will have a reason for which they chose this option. And so if you have done a research and your findings suggest that it's problematic, yeah, I think we have a Minister of Education and you should be able to talk to him.
It is a common knowledge in Ghana that what is run now as education is problematic.
Okay.
It is. So if it's a common knowledge, then they should give us a counter information as to say the common knowledge in Ghana is wrong.
Well, these are educational issues. Let's leave it to the Minister of Education.
Yes, I hope they're listening because Ghanaians are not satisfied with what is being run as an education system.
Okay.
The curriculum is not good enough. Doesn't factor in patriotism. It doesn't communicate the ideologies of people like Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the forefathers of the democracy that we are trying to practice. And so if we are shouting on the street and our education system is not fixing it, the Fix the Ghana movement is going nowhere.
Okay.
Anyway, that's just my comment on that one. So let's move away from that place and let's come back to, you gave us a very broad overview of your education journey, the challenges, how you overcame, and even the system, how the system did not help you. So you have to single-handedly carry on with these things, the requirements to becoming Dr. Manyo, Dr. Joyce, and as I would prefer to say, Mrs. Joyce Manyo, PhD. But I'm told no, when you say it, say Dr. Manyo, but when you write it, PhD at the end. That's beautiful. Anyway, let's carry on. So in your thesis, which we will journey through there and see where we end, you've studied in Uckland University, obviously you told us, and you also in the field of political marketing.
Yeah.
Now, before even I go on into your thesis, political marketing. Now, from the hot seat, as far as where democracies come from, it said, is the government of the people by the people for the people. Why should there be a marketing of politics? When it's about the people, when it should be about just you coming to service the people, come and solve problems. Why should we market it?
Okay.
Where from the competition of marketing? That's what I want to understand.
Okay, so political marketing is basically applying marketing principles to the practice of politics.
Okay.
And so democracy is for the people, by the people. That's okay. But political parties, political leaders, politicians, need to have some principles that they put into practice for you and I as political consumers to be satisfied. So the concept of marketing, as we know from the corporate world, is what? It identify what their needs are, try to satisfy them, okay, to keep them in business. It is the same principle we bring it into politics. We're saying that don't just say, I want to win the power and come and make judicious use of resources. You must research the people, you must understand them, you must be able to know what you need to do at every point in time to move the country forward. Your communication must be spot on. And at every point in time, you must engage the people. These are marketing principles. And these are things that we need in politics. So you can't say you're a government and you don't get in touch with your people. But that is communication. That is political communication. You don't just wake up and promise A, B, C, D. So you need to carry a research to understand your audience. That is what? Political marketing research. Okay, so you have a candidate. What kind of person are you presenting to the people? The competence, the capabilities of the person. These are what political marketing will teach you, that candidate branding is important because it will help you select the best, the one that can do the job. Because remember, you'll be accountable to the people. So political marketing is simple.
Talk about accountability.
It's simply putting into place marketing principles that will help you practice politics in a better way, one that gives the people what they really want, or one that will move the country forward. So political marketing.
So from your own experience, will you say that since 1992 referendum, political marketing has played a role where consumers are satisfied?
I think the question would be, to what extent have these politicians practice political marketing? Like I said, Ghana is a developing democracy, and political marketing is to some extent an emerging area in Ghana. Even when you look at the literature, it's skewed to develop democracies. Yep. It means that the extent to which these advanced democracies have used marketing principles to enhance their politics is what has extensively been researched on. So when you come to developing democracies like Ghana, literature is very limited. So the question would be, has politicians been using political marketing principles since 1992? To some extent, yes, and to some extent, no, because different political parties have been in government. Well, it's been between NDC and NPP. And there are some things that they do that falls within the practice of political marketing. There are some too that is out of it. So generally in Ghana, literature,
the hot seat to see loads of it.
Generally in Ghana, the literature says that we're moving steadily in the area of political marketing. In other words, political parties and leaders have realized that they are brands and they need to behave as such.
You talk about engagement and accountability, because the political marketing then helps to identify these individuals with these qualities to perform and deliver to the satisfaction of the people in line with the constitutions and the rule of law, instruments of governance. But this is one of the things, as far as common knowledge is concerned in Ghana, we believe, and the Hot Seat believe, that our leaders have failed us in that capacity. Of course, we'll go to some other aspects. I'm not done reading your project yet, but in summary, I know where your project is going and has also rightly identified what is not there as far as branding is concerned. You talked of development. There's a need for delivering. You don't just develop, but you have to deliver. Now, but when we come back to engagement and accountability, I mean, these days you go on the internet and you read comments under news or reports from the media houses, you will feel the heat, the dissatisfaction of Ghanaians. It's like we are saying our government leadership is not engaged with us at all. Seems to be accountable to somebody else, not to us, even though we wield power to them through the marketing of what their ideologies, things they want to perform, And then sometimes we are satisfied. And so we hope they'll do, and then we vote for them into power. But once they're in office, it seems like they become unquestionable, untouchable, and even to say something, you're scared to say so. So engagement and accountability, I'll base it on common knowledge that Ghanaians are dissatisfied as far as that is concerned. We think that it's not measured to what it should be. In your research, what have you come across? Why should it be so? Why should almost all Ghanaians be having this perception about governance?
Okay, so thank you very much. But I wouldn't say, well, you said almost all. That leaves room to say that there are others that are not. But this is it. From a political marketing point of view and from the literature, you have the party, you have candidates, and the brand promise. Okay. Now, you need to engage to understand the needs of the people. So it is not surprising that you see these political candidates moving from region to region, engaging key stakeholders, going to the marketplaces, engaging market women, taxi drivers, and all that. It's a form of engagement. By doing so, they identify what their needs are. And if you look at it, when getting into election, you see these politicians engaging big institutions or organized labor and all those. It's a form of engagement. They have indirect engagement with them to know what the issues are. And then out of that, they make promises, okay? Now, the accountability from a political marketing point of view is when you've promised A, B, C, D. That when I come into government, I'll do A, B, C, D. When you vote for me to come, I'll do A, B, C, D. And you get into government, and one, if you are not able to deliver on that, you need to go back to the people and let them know the reason for which you are unable to do that. Because there is a framework that says that talks about adjusting the brand promise. Sometimes you have clear intention, a good intention that I would want to do A, B, C, D in government. You get into government, the reality hits you so hard that you're unable to deliver on that. The theory says that get back to the people and give them reason for which you're unable to do that. That I can say is a bit lacking from our end. There are times that you are able to do that. The literature says that. I mean, you should be able to itemize what you promised to do and what you've been able to do so that the people make informed decision as to how much you've been able to deliver. Yeah. And that is what in the political marketing literature we call accountability. It might be slightly different from what the general public is talking about, that maybe they expect politicians to come and tell them that this is what we've done, this and that.
But yes, that is their right. It's within their rights for that to happen.
I'm talking with the literature and what political marketing says. Political marketing says that, yes, you promise A, B, C, D. Come and tell us the extent to which you've done this and reason for which you've not been able to do so that I make informed decision. I'm saying that from that point of view, and when I look at how various governments have behaved, to some extent they do that. Other times they do not do it. So I would say largely there are shortfalls there, but I would not condemn all of them. I would not say that wholesale they have not been able to do that, because I study these political parties. My work focused on Ghana, so I study these political parties, their political behavior before election and after election in terms of their promises. And I'll say from the findings, yes, sometimes they come back to tell us what they've been able to do. What they normally do not do is the areas that they could not deliver on. Yeah, so that is it.
If I ask you why that, I'm sure you will say that, I would think that you'll say that you're not in their mind why they don't, because
of course, yes,
we are more concerned with as far as the general knowledge or the common knowledge of Ghanaians are concerned, is that these political leaders only know us when they want us to put them into, mandate them or will our powers to them to manage the affairs of country, constituencies, districts on our behalf. Once they get it, it's done. Some don't even visit their constituencies, right? And then the post-accountability is what we're talking about.
Yes.
The post-accountability, when the people are saying, you promise jobs, there are no jobs. Like you rightly said, the literature says, okay, tell them why there are no jobs or why there's just a few jobs that we are adding to it. But when people begin to become critical, sometimes what we get is that there's this level of tyranny. some instrument, some sort of manipulation to make the people be quiet through fear and coercion. No, this is just a common knowledge in Ghana. Even at the moment, Ghana's what do you call it? Media ranking is so low because it seems to suggest that journalists are not allowed to speak. Journalists are not allowed to be critical with sitting government. Hence, the press ranking is dropped of all-time low. But anyway, that's not what. But I just want to highlight some of the challenges that we face in practicing this democracy, which we have all put together since 1992 to practice. Is good. It gives us the option to deliberate rather than being whipped from the back to do something. But it seems like some are abusing the power we wield to them.
Well, I will not be able to speak to that because I have not done any research that tells me that they are abusing. But the point is that if you are a political consumer or you are a voter, you have the power. And if they came to you telling you that they will do A, B, C, D, and they did not fulfill their promise, which in political marketing we say promise delivery failure, you've got the power to vote them out when next there are elections. If you do not exercise that power, then you got yourself to be blamed.
Sometimes the people seem not to trust the election process.
Well, unfortunately, there is not an.
I'm just saying. Oh no.
So that is the process.
I'm not trying for you to say anything to that, but I'm just saying the notion out there, the thought process of Ghanaians, that sometimes they feel like the elections has something has happened to the elections.
Have we been critical enough? Can Ghanaians confidently say that yes, we've held these people accountable? They promised A, B, C, D, and they didn't deliver. They did not come to explain to us why they did not, and so we voted them out. The literature is saying that increasingly, political consumers in developing democracies like Ghana are becoming punitive. In other words, in elections, they'll evaluate what you've been able to do, and they'll either vote for you or vote you out. And so it's not surprising for me when we do, say, political primaries and you see some people that have been voted out, or we go into elections and this party exit after 4 years or that. That is how we are supposed to behave. In branding, when you make promise, you must think of delivery before you promise. And you can find that in my thesis. If you're a brand, you want to keep your value, which we call brand equity, intact. So what you want to do is that before you promise, you think about delivery. So if you think about delivery, then you make sure what you promise is realistic, it's feasible, and it's something that you'll be able to do within your 4 years. If you are not able to do, it's for us as consumers to be punitive. In other words, kick you out. If we do not do that and we compromise or we buy into their clientele behavior because they are giving us A, B, C, D during elections, then we'll find ourselves in the situation that we'll find ourselves. But literature says that increasingly developing political consumers in developing democracies are becoming punitive. In other words, you do what you say or they kick you out.
That's what it should be. And you talked about that. Is we Ghanaians, are we critical enough? But this is the point where people are afraid to speak because of this alleged tyranny that somebody is going to instigate someone to do something to you. How much do you think that people can be critical?